afi emu da hono mame ndo wase papa sa no pen so be kan yen sa na bia ni kakrai yenim sa nka yenka bi nhye mumpo no oba Africa the 52 or 53 countries no womo promote the friend say African Continental Free Trade Agreement. Almost as a cross-border communication, recipient of information, receipt of information, the cost in terms of our culture, our heritage. Now, our currency, any said it dija, Emma Yahutimi Eko, our Hariso. Now, the Amosomo is it in line with beauty said the African Continental Free Trade Agreement with the visa promotion, free visa promotion?
Oha a Jumedia, the Rika Moment Church, na nyame adom so ya driver from Accra through Togo and Benin and making bedu Nigeria.
I just say anya wi mu hyen na mo de nam munam fom
Maybe anya wi mu hyen be driver na do I born say ya be pese bibi my ya be ba ko say the be ya edwadie ebetimi akoso say the be ya mindful able to move from one place to the other. Before I even answer your question, my mom fato hombako. Also, ECOWAS there. Oko in a ECOWAS country, you don't need a visa. Na oba Togo you see Frebi be Lassie Passé. I know na Emma Quine, Emma Utimi Ichem. Until Lassie Passé, you continue to Togo. I feel that if Togo about Benin. Na yedru Togo Benin border you say and then yanji laissez passer to show say we are exiting Togo na kakra because if somebody comes to your country and they are leaving you should actually be happy they are leaving and they hadn't overstayed etc. So experience are and at the border we are at the border for about 45 minutes. There's a I say a month for percent you pay big crowns and we tremako and no boa emma a jedisem and cost because time is money. 45 minutes you can imagine what we could have done with that, and so empire bo any age media yedi a share a buying bia Africa my crime. And to also encourage them, say, immigration for, say, Togo for, say, Ghana for, say, South Africa for, more modern training more. Say, they are professional, so they have to be retrained at all times. Because now, there's no way we can have, trade thriving. If 10 years we could do border, this would treat it could be in the question
no correct.
And I'm for the extortion. And extorting this, from the traveling public. Now, having said that, after 4 years, I mean, on my mandate in the set to make sure that all of these things are happening, but I don't see them doing much, to be honest with you. And so we, as ordinary African citizens, have decided to Nkrumah, Modibo Keita, Sekuture Mo, King Mohammed of Morocco Mo, Nasser of Egypt, almost 30, Julius Nyerere Mo, Adiana Edda Omweni Sune say, a baby man, Yabaya Kro, because it's me a crow. Men can say a crow as one country. But the crow where people can travel together, freely without restrictions. It would expand our economies. And if the economies are expanding, and then we have tourism, so more tourist numbers what it means is that tourism authorities they need to hire more tour guides, they need to, create facilities, and then it's good for taxi drivers, for Uber drivers, for hoteliers, etc. But it makes it difficult for our people to travel within Africa. And then Ufri Abuja, which is like 45 minutes, air Ghana by air. One ticket, $1,000. Into Obio Africa, the person feels say, or $3,200, or which mark Bangkok in Asia, I could have a good time.
Thailand.
$700, or the Benya a ticket, Alco Europe, akona na moha aba. And so these are things that we need to do to make sure say bibia e koso wano. Meaning America for say America first. I have no problem with that. Europe for they are taking care of Europe, when they are interested in the progress of Europeans. I have no problem with that. Africa, we must put Africa first. And the best interest of Africa has to be above and over any other person's or continent's interest.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Look at Ghana, biggest cocoa producer. Well, we've lost that to Ivory Coast. But you want your man, you bit my year. You know more Africa, so a bit me, a dihu emphasis. Say fish near per se, you're the biggest producer in Africa. You focus on that. Say per se, tourism, Ghana, the mecca of tourism in Africa. You focus on that. Whatever it is that we want to do, we need to strengthen that. Say the bay out because the port is too big. Nigeria for be so far, Ghana for be so far, Obibia, over Zambia, see, biggest producer of poultry products. I don't see why, as a BB my poultry products, near poultry, or Europe and Asia and other places. Morocco is the biggest producer of producer of fertilizer on our continent. I don't see why because Ukraine for fertilizer abra ya nkasa ye bibi maimu ye nuanom bi of eton fertilizer. Inti say ye ni say ya okay me nua nana oton, for instance oton baye ye nkoto bi no ho say the baye baye the business no ebe travel obi ton nsefufu me de ka ho me de yam fato ho.
Yes.
Obi ye bibi. That way we can grow up.
Say bia kako honorable kako say you call Gambia. Kako Gambia. The largest exporter, yes.
I have seen it in the Gambia. They call Gambia, as a matter of fact, there's a big Ghanaian community, Ghana for a biatana hall for like almost 60 years. We could share or more in the Gambia. Ghana for echo, just to fish. And they're doing very, very well. Into suspicions and before we would rather say abrofo bebaha than say younger say maybe before bebaha. But who tells you say so any scale bit me tourism? Today in Africa, there are a lot of African countries they have visa on arrival policies for Europeans. Only a bit more for the passport. They are in our country. But look at the difficulties they put us through. And we can't do these things for our own people as Africans. And I make no apologies about how I feel with what is happening. Almost see focus na we take our destinies into our own hands. Kwame Nkrumah said the black man is capable of managing his own affairs. Nana, Africa's population is 1.4 billion. West Africa, the consumer market, Nipa Yetonyoma, is about 450 million people who consume things. Imagine say, your products. Now, Tom and Nipa 450 million. And Faswa will be.
Right. Ras Mubarak. Kafra. Timinka. Ahomanati. Kafra. Abusia for with the Monfanche Sanse, said you can woman and fem, woman free Togo, one more across Mali, one back Burkina, and in Yemu, a shine or more etimuntino. A homano, it will be ana, a moo ayadin papa, but Mrs. Sosa, a bebois. Na a brace semono, ye be penny bium, na ye busani se, woman you know qua airban. Yes, or dia, ye ko Bobosia, IMF, ye ko World Bank. Enya Ghana kwa Africa ha obi adidi e wabrofo nsemo enti no e ban sa control any monopoly no still kwasi broni ogina intentenwa e na enyema hodo bi ese before ye no or dan dem funtum e de maye e ban sa nso e bi economies of scale oba Ghana ye nsika na e bone boa afemu nyina ne se ne yenya yenya se ne ye de ye Togo de e different Burkina de e different Nigeria de e different in terms of our population growth any economies of scale ekwame de betimi afa so a ebenya we se mu nyina no se boa mu ade e ba akon e bre se mrenya Ras Mubarak yɛne bɛto ansɛm kɔmmɔte twin so but for now yɛnkɔpie mu ɛwɔ medin yɛnkɔpie mu ɛwɔ tumira yes tumira heba na yɛnkɔnkɔdi yɛapɔmɔden mu ɛnkɔmmɔ ɛno akyi no meba a yɛbɛhwɛ ne yɛdi nkɔmmɔ foforɔ nso ɛde afa BEC provisional